Hey everybody, my name is Micah Tori Monique Parker, and you are listening to the Black Atlantic Radio. Tonight, I'm going to be diving into a story time that I kind of hinted on my TikTok social media page, but I didn't give too much detail. But it's about a time when I was just about to go to sleep, and I heard this woman outside of my bedroom door crying. Now, this was not too late into the night, but it was late enough. Everybody was asleep. My mother and my father's master bedroom is downstairs. They're sleeping. My brother, who is we share this Jack and Jill bathroom, and he's sleeping. So I'm the only one up. So while I went up the stairs, I had gone into my bedroom, had the light on already, gone into my bedroom, I shut the door behind me. I am preparing for bed because I just was exhausted. I was exhausted. I was tired. Really, just my mind was just racing back and forth, kind of like a hamster on like one of the hamster wheels that you have for like the hamster. And I finally get to a point where I shut out all the lights. Finally, go and lay down in my bed, just about to go to sleep, and then I hear this woman sobbing outside of my door. Now, at first, it was kind of faint. But then when I tried to ignore the sound initially, it was almost as if the crying and the sobbing intensified. Now, just for context, my spiritual mother and I were freshly getting to know each other at the time. And I was introduced to her by Jeremy Alexander, who is a fellow Unga or male Vodou priest in the Haitian Vodou tradition. And my spiritual mother and I were freshly getting to know one another. We're communicating, we're talking, and we're just like, sharing details about ourselves and here and there and all those great things. So as we're getting to know each other, it was a particular point where my spiritual mother and I we were talking about my spiritual marriage and getting that done. Now, for those who do not know, a spiritual marriage in layman's terms um, is literally just that. It's a marry. You're married to the spirits, um, and so that basically is a divine unification, and it's you're respecting their days. You know, each one have their specific days and all that great things. And it's a very beautiful experience, honestly. Sidebar: not many people need to be married. Not many people are called to be married. So there are particular cases, as I've been taught by my spiritual mother, that not everybody needs everything, if that makes sense. So my spiritual mother and I, we were talking about my marriage ceremony and having to get that done. And I was talking to her, and I was like, okay, like I'm ready to get this done. I'm ready to get it, not over with per se, but I'm ready to really finally answer the calling because at that point, I was supposed to have been married. The ladies. Now, another sidebar in referencing the ladies, when I say it in this context, refers to the Erzulis. Erzuli fuera la reine Dahomey. Erzuli fuera the queen of Dahomey, the Dahomey kingdom in Africa, right? Who is a Loa spirit goddess of love, unfathomable beauty, luxury, perfumes, like just everything when you think of pure love, that is her. I'm also talking about La Sirene, who is the mermaid, right? Who is a mermaid. Some may know her in other traditions, specifically Orisha traditions, as Yemaya. But I know her personally in the Haitian Vodou tradition as Mambo La Sirene Ziama. Ziama is like diamond, like literally, like again, luxury, beauty. Just learned recently from my spiritual mother, music. It's just so beautiful. And also, Julie Donta. Donta is a fierce protector. All of them are queens in their own rights. Julie Donta is a fierce protector, a fierce mother, a fierce everything. A queen who stands on her own, tall, strong, beautiful, resilient, everything. So as my spiritual mother and I are talking about getting my spiritual marriage done, and I'm very adamant with her, and I'm telling her like I want to get it done as soon as possible, and she gives me a month. Well, not a month. I won't say. Let me make sure that I say this right. It wasn't a specific month that she was giving me, but because I was so adamant on getting it done, and this was close to October, I think this was about maybe early to mid September, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember being in a mall parking lot. I'm talking to my spiritual mother, and I'm like, yes, I really want to get this done. I'm adamant. I'm really, really adamant. Like my whole tone, my attitude, how I'm talking to my spiritual mother is very adamant on wanting to get it done, almost kind of in a rush. That's very key for what I will later talk about. So my spiritual mother at that time, she was like, okay, like, or it kept on asking me, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I just insisted, yes. So there was a specific time frame where I was wanting to join a D9 organization. And for those who don't know, D9 organizations are Divine Nine organizations, Black D9 organizations, men and women, male fraternities, and female sororities. And I was really wanting to join. I was wanting to join in my undergrad, but the timing was not, it wasn't, it just, it never fell in line. So I kind of gave up on it. And then there were some things that I seen with the undergrad people in those chapters. And I was like, nah, I'm not really vibing with it. So I'm just going to look to pledge alumni chapter for the specific D9 organization. So that's what I was wanting to plan to do. Humanly plan to do, might I add. And so my mother, my biological mother, and I were talking about, basically sharing the excitement as far as joining a D9 organization. And, my mother actually at one point was willing to pay the fees necessary for me to get started with member orientation. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm very excited. I'm pumped. I'm like, okay, cool. My mother handled this. And then I'll get my spiritual things, completed and get, married, spiritually married, and all those great things. So it was the night of the orientation for the specific organization. And I'm all suited up, professional. That was a dress code and all those great things. And going through orientation, we get to a particular part where we're seated in this room. We've already talked to the people that we needed to talk to. We mixed, we mingled, we introduced ourselves, we, expressed our interest and all those great things, yada, yada, yada. Now, near the end of the night, we're all now sitting in this room. And while we're all sitting in this room, we are all kind of like, okay, like, we're all nervous. We didn't know how we did, what the men were looking for as far as the candidates, and just a whole bunch of like what ifs and questions. So we're just sitting there. They told us beforehand, before we even actually got into the room, how the process would work. You would go through the interview process. Then you would, if interview process, then the members would take a vote if they were to vote you in, or decline, or however you want to put it, to not move you forward. And then the monies would come involved at a later time. That's also important, because in my mind, when I'm hearing at a later time, I'm thinking at a later time, meaning at the end of all the things that we would need to know, all the things that we would need to be tested on throughout the membership process, throughout the intake process. All of the monies that were designated to becoming a member would come at the end because honestly, truthfully, you don't know. How do I say this? I don't find I don't find any reason to prematurely pay money for something and you don't know. And that's not saying on you, that's not saying on the person as far as their study habits, their time management, and how bad, they want that particular thing. It's just to say, I don't see the reason to prematurely pay money, and we have not even reached the membership intake process. We haven't even reached the interviews. So that was that thing. So now, after getting all the spiel about all of that information, now we are in this room. We're all in this room. All the candidates were in this room. Then one of the guys, one of the alumni chapter brothers, comes into the room. When he comes into the room, he tells us the next steps. He tells us this money is due the following week, and it's due the following week on a Thursday. That's important to know because how it's taught in the society that I'm a part of and how my spiritual mother teaches it. Thursday is the Rada spirits, the cool spirits. So, for example, Ejuli Fueda, Met Agwe, you know, the cool, chill spirits as in simplest terms, right? But it didn't dawn on me when he had said it. So I'm like, damn, like that's like mad quick. Okay, whatever. So I'm still excited. I'm still pumped. I'm telling my mother on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Now, I will also like to add in this excerpt where my spiritual mother had told me on the phone, for some reason, this is what she's telling me, for some reason, Israeli Freda doesn't want you to rush. She doesn't want you to feel rushed. She doesn't want you to rush things, like let things fall into place. And again, that persistence that I was very persistent on being like, no, I want to get this done. I want to get this done. I want to get this done. So now I'm home. I tell my mother all the information that was given to me by the men that were there. And she's like, well, that's not going to work. Like, basically, like, I have no problem doing it, but it's not going to work because I will only be able to help you on that Friday. Can they extend it? Is that okay to give the money then? So I took it upon myself to reach out to them to ask, hey, I'm really interested. Is it possible to give the payment on that Friday, like immediately on that Friday, like no ifs, ands, or buts? Basically, I was given like, no, there's no flexibility, there's no extension, there's no exceptions. And I'm just okay. I'm like, what, what's going on? Like, what do you mean you can't just, like, it's literally a day later. So after all of that, I'm scrambling in my head. I'm like, okay, so how can I get the money on Thursday to give to these people so that I can continue the process? Because I really want to be a part of this organization and I really want to do community service. I want to grow in networking. I want to do this, that, and the third. Boom, boom, boom. So after a moment, I went to my spiritual mother and we're talking. And I said to my spiritual mother, I was like, again, the same things that I told my biological mother, I told my spiritual mother. So in telling my spiritual mother what I told my mother, I was like, because I'm processing it at the same time that I'm telling her. So I'm saying aloud, like, I don't know why they're wanting it on this day. They can't even move it to like on like the next day. Like I don't know why I'm feeling like I'm rushed because why is it that they're asking for the money a week later? She was like in more words than none, right? She basically was like, do you hear what you just said? Like, isn't that quite funny? Because that's exactly what, as you leave Fred, I didn't want you to do was to feel rushed. Child, when I say I was so gagged, now I want to preface that the warnings were already there. My spiritual mother already told me, like, hey, usually Freda doesn't want you to feel like you have to rush this. Don't rush. Warning number one. Warning number two came when I went to sleep one night and I was fast asleep, trying to go to sleep, I should say, not even fast asleep. I was trying to go to sleep. All the lights were out. Everybody asleep. I'm the only one that was awake. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed because I'm knocking my brain between the washer and the dryer, trying to wrap my head around how I'm going to get this money to them so I can join this organization. And the responses that I was getting from the men that was a part of the whole process. And I hear this woman sobbing outside of my door, out of my bedroom door, very notably, very in a normal tone as far as volume, I should say. And I jolted up in that bed because I could not believe what I heard. I had turned on the TV from that point on and stayed up close to sunrise. So it was a very jolting moment. So that was the second warning. I told my spiritual mother, and she was freaked out because if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure if this came afterwards or it came before, but there was a particular moment when my spiritual mother and I were talking and the line got intercepted where we were both saying hello, hello. And like I could hear her, but she couldn't hear me and vice versa. But when I called her the morning after, or I'm not sure if it was the next morning or within that same week, I'll just say that. We get back on the phone, I call her, and I tell her what happened. And we're both in this collective shock because now it's happening not only to me, but now it's happening with my spiritual mother. This at this point, it's like a second or third warning that I was still not heeding. Then we get to another warning where my spiritual father gets a dream. My spiritual father gets a dream. And within that dream, it was, if I'm not mistaken, I hope that I'm not misquoting, but essentially what went on in the dream was that you heard Fueda come into the dream to talk with Abba, who's my spiritual father, and say that he's not listening, he's not listening. And it was kind of a question of like, well, like who? So she goes to the door, she opens it, she points out, she says, he's not listening. And who's at the door? It's me. So I go to work. I go to work one day and shift is almost over. It's maybe around between 5 and 6 p.m. or so. And this is when I find out about that particular dream. And now I'm on the way home. I'm on the phone with my spiritual mother and now my spiritual father. And my spiritual father tells me because at that point, he's been married to the ladies for 20 or so plus years. And he tells me on the phone with my spiritual mother there and says, I want peace with my ladies. Like you cannot go off of your own time. It's when the spirits tell you how to move, when to move. And it's like that. It's not when we humanly feel like, okay, like cool, boom, I want to do this, I want to do that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they'll allow it to a certain degree, but it's also a point where it's a give and take. So yes, you did what you wanted to do, but now it's time to be obedient to what we've been asking you to do that you have been lagging your feet on. And I've been lagging my feet when it came to becoming spiritually married because I thought initially when I talked about to my now spiritual mother that I just was wanting to get married to the ladies and that was it and go about my Orisha stuff. Absolutely not. At one point when my spiritual mother and I were talking, she told me, she let me know, she was like, she thought that was real cute. Like, oh, you thought you were just gonna come here and get, spiritually married and then that was it. No. Like, and Freda had told her, be careful with this one. because he will run. And yes, she is absolutely right. Because, and as my spiritual mother has taught me, it's me running from self. But the reason why I am a runner when it came to Vodou, specifically, just to kind of give a bit more of context, as a person who has grown up in a Baptist family who thinks of anything outside of the Baptist Christian religion is evil, specifically Vodou. It's hard to grow up in that and to embrace that, even though personally I already knew I was different. I already knew that my calling was not to be Baptist, to be Christian, but to believe in God and keep Him central, but to connect more with my roots, my ancestral roots, my African roots. And Vodou supplied that and then some. And I thank God, I thank the ancestors, I thank the Lord, I thank Jeremy for introducing me to our spiritual mother, because she changed my perspective in more ways than one when it comes to approaching relationships with people, with life, with my relationship to God, because time management in spirituality, and I can only speak in Vodou, can become, at least in my case, became at one point conflated because I would just pour and neglect other relationships. I would give all of my energy to this and neglect to do that. But as my spiritual father taught me, just in the month of January, in doing shadow work that I really did not pay attention to, but he opened my eyes, and so did my spiritual mother, is that I really do need to work on how I maintain my relationships with between the human role when it comes to family and the spiritual world when it comes to spirituality and what I need to take care of. And now in that realm, I can't neglect one or the other. It is a active everyday thing to continue to maintain those connections spiritually and in reality. And it can be hard, but throughout the process and learning and having these awakenings and these moments of reckoning with myself and my place in the world and my mission that God has given me, it has opened my eyes to really realize that I'm not alone. I am surrounded by people that love me and I love them. I'm surrounded by family, a spiritual family that has embraced me since the beginning, that I've been introduced to them. I am loved. I'm embraced. I'm myself. It's no different, but the support system has definitely been a game changer in understanding myself and relationship to others and people, and having to know how to navigate those social relationships, if you will. But this particular experience that I had with Ezuli Fredas is one of love. It's one that teaches or has taught me just how important it is to take things slow, to not rush, to take your time, to appreciate the process, to pour into it evenly and lovingly with care and reverence and humility and grace. Because, again, and I'll continue to say this as for as long as I live, as my spiritual mother has taught me, it's we're not seeking and searching for perfection. We should not be searching for that. Where we are here to be great, we're here to not rush. We are trying and needing to take our time so that it is done properly and in the best way. And my love for God, for the ancestors, for the Lord, for my spiritual family, parents included, is so immense, because the same love that they have poured into me, I want to continue to pour into them, and to know and to understand the balance between my relationships and maintaining those very things. And although it was a wake up call when it came to Ezuli Freda, it was a much needed one because I needed to truly know what love is, and love is patient and love is kind. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. But I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. There will be more story times to come. And eventually, I want to open the lines and I want to open a forum of the sorts. I'm not sure how I want to do it yet, where people can submit their stories to me and that I'm able to share them with you guys and possibly some interviews. So I can't wait to connect with all of you. I can't wait to learn more about you. And I hope that with this channel, you are able to take away something, something that's inquisitive, something that you may not have known, something that you just found out, some new piece of information, something about yourself, something about your relationships, something that you can take away with. I'm super happy to know and to really have that a part of the journey. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and stay blessed.